Berlin? Munich? The Alps? What's the best place to visit in Germany? What month should you go? And what things are actually completely overrated? Hallo, servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Feli. I'm originally from Munich, Germany, but I've been living here in Cincinnati, Ohio, on and off since 2016. So the third question in my Ask a German series that got a lot of votes in the poll is: what's the best place to visit in Germany? Some people also asked, what's a place that's totally overrated, and what's the best month to plan a trip to Germany? I probably wouldn't have even picked this question if it happened up to me, because it's a really hard question to answer, but since I let you guys vote, and this was one of the highest ranked questions of all 15 options, I'm going to do my best and answer it for you after all. But I think every German probably has a different answer to this, and it strongly depends on who's traveling and what they're looking for. Is it a single person in their early 20s trying to check out the club scene in Berlin, or a family with kids trying to enjoy some nature? And I think it also depends on where you're from and what you know from home. I think American tourists are often drawn to different things than people visiting from European countries. So, because I don't want to put this burden on me to answer for all Germans, everyone is welcome to share their insider tips and opinions down below in the comments, and I'll also put some helpful links to articles and travel forums in the description box. And before you actually get on that plane and travel to Germany, definitely make sure to check out this video where I talked about things you need to know before going to Germany. Just like with the last two Ask a German videos, I don't think this is going to be a video under 10 minutes like I initially planned. I think I'm just going to give up on that for this series, because the questions you guys asked me are just too broad, and I don't want to just be like, Berlin is the best city to visit. Why? Oh, because it's awesome. Like, I actually want to provide some information to you guys. So before I give you clear answers on those questions, I'm gonna give you a little overview and tell you about the best cities, the best scenic/nature destinations, some historical places, and some other fun sightseeing spots in Germany. Chapters and timestamps are down below. So in my opinion, to experience the culture of a country and get a good first impression, it's always good to visit one of its biggest cities. Germany has a lot of cities that, unlike in the US, are often pretty close to each other. I think it's safe to say that one good spot to visit is our capital, Berlin. It has a lot of landmarks that most of you are probably familiar with, such as the Brandenburger Tor, of course, or the Reichstag, where the German parliament meets, but it also has tons of museums, shops, and a very unique history, since the city used to be divided into a West German and an East German part up until 1989. So if you're interested in GDR history, Berlin is a great place to visit. You can go to an old Stasi prison, for example. However, Berlin is not actually known as a typical German city. It's more like the colorful parrot among the German cities, because you can pretty much find everything there. Every neighborhood is different, there are tons of international people in the city and many English-speaking companies, and the variety in the food scene is gigantic too, and again, not mainly typical German. Berlin is also known for its party scene, with one of the most infamous electro clubs being the Berghain. The city itself is pretty spread out, so make sure to plan in more than just 1 or 2 days for sightseeing. Depending on where you go, you can find beautiful old architecture and old promenades like the Kurfürstendamm, but you'll also see a lot of concrete and graffiti, as well as hipster cafes. Berlin is also the biggest city in Germany, by the way, with about 3.7 million people. The second biggest city is Hamburg, and the third biggest one is my hometown, Munich. Let's get to Hamburg, which, in my opinion, is definitely a prettier city than Berlin. It might look more like what you'd expect a German city to look like, with impressive old architecture downtown, plus lots of water. It's located right at the river Elbe, has a huge trading port, a famous fish market, and all throughout the city there's lots of water and bridges, which makes for an amazing atmosphere. It also has a famous party street, the Reeperbahn, or also known as Kiez, where you'll find a wild mix of pubs, clubs, and sex shops. Welcome to Germany! Now, I'm not going into detail for every city as much as I did for Berlin. There's pretty much endless information on each city, but But Hamburg is definitely a great place to visit if you want to see a beautiful German city and also experience some of the more northern German culture. I actually spent 3 months for an internship there once, because to me it's almost like the North German Munich in a way. However, the weather can be pretty shitty up there. Let's get to Munich, which I'm gonna say a little more about because it's my hometown. For a lot of people, I feel like it's a pretty good destination within Germany because it kind of combines a lot of different interests. It has a beautiful old town, but is also right by the Alps in case you want to go on hikes or go skiing in the winter or just get some beautiful mountain views. There are also lots of lakes, and it's only about an hour away from Austria and about an hour and a half from the Austrian city Salzburg that I know many Americans like to visit because of the movie The Sound of Music. Schloss Neuschwanstein is a very popular tourist destination as well, of course, which is also only 1.5 to 2 hours away from Munich, but we also have a few palaces in Munich itself that are great to visit. And since Munich lies in Bavaria, you can experience some typical Bavarian culture there. Go to all the breweries, beer gardens, have some pretzels and beer, and in the fall, of course, you can visit Oktoberfest. That's not to say that the culture in other parts of Germany isn't great to experience, but I know that a lot of people want to kind of see the things that reflect their image of Germany, which in a lot of cases is mostly Bavarian culture for whatever reason. If you're a soccer fan, you can check out FC Bayern München, and of course there's also lots of history in the city, including Nazi history. If you want to visit a concentration camp on your trip, the city of Dachau is only 15 minutes north of Munich, where you can visit the memorial site of the concentration camp Dachau. Another popular city to visit is Frankfurt am Main, for example, which is where a lot of people fly to because it's a big travel hub, and Frankfurt is the only big city in Germany that has a skyline, so it looks a little more international compared to other German cities, but it also has a historic old town. Cologne is popular too. They serve Kölsch beer in tiny glasses there, have a stunning cathedral, and go crazy for Carnival in the spring. Experiencing Carnival in Köln one time is on a lot of people's bucket list, plus you can get to the Netherlands or Belgium really quickly from there. Now, I can't mention every single city in Germany, but if you want to visit a city in former East Germany, Dresden and Leipzig are beautiful cities, and of course visiting the former East can bring a whole new layer to your Germany trip. And besides that, I know that lots of tourists like to visit some of these cute little historical towns. Heidelberg is a popular destination for that. It's kind of known as a university city with lots of young people, but definitely beautiful with the castle and the bridges. I know that many Americans also like to travel to Rothenburg ob der Tauber, where I've never been to, or also Bamberg, Regensburg, or Nuremberg. All of those places are more in the south of Germany, but I'm sure there are towns like that in other regions as well. By the way, in case you want to visit more than one place in Germany, traveling by car might not necessarily be the best idea. In most bigger cities and pretty much any tourist destination, it's usually very stressful to park, and gas is also typically about 3 times as expensive as in the US, but the good news is that it's pretty easy to take trains and long-distance buses throughout the country, and pretty much every city has a great public transportation system. And in case you want to check the sports reports on your American TV channel while traveling through Germany, and suddenly it says not available, or you want to watch an episode of your Netflix show, but Netflix shows you a completely different selection, don't worry, there is a solution, and it's called ExpressVPN, which is today's sponsor, and you've probably heard me talk about ExpressVPN before because I've been using it ever since I came to the US. Unfortunately, a lot of German TV programs, such as the election reports this past September or the coverage of the Soccer World Cup in the summer, are usually geo-blocked when you're not in that country, so you can't access it, but with ExpressVPN, I can change my internet location to Germany to watch it. I also use it a lot to get more shows on Netflix because Netflix gives you different shows depending on your location, and I watch How I Met Your Mother and Modern Family that way all the time by connecting to Germany or the UK. Those are 2 of my absolute favorite shows, but you can also access shows like Friends or The Office that way. The best thing is that you can now get 3 extra months off ExpressVPN for free if you go to expressvpn.com/Feli from Germany, or just click on the link in the description box below. Now let's talk about some more scenic travel destinations. We actually have lots of nature in Germany: forests, mountains, and even beaches. Being from Munich, the first thing that comes to my mind are the Alps, of course. They start about 30 minutes south of the city, and you can often even see them from Munich. And they make for amazing day trips, like to the highest mountain of Germany, the Zugspitze, or to all the beautiful mountain lakes. Another great place to visit is the Black Forest, the Schwarzwald. That's what the Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte, Black Forest cake, is named after, and the region is also known for its cuckoo clocks, which seem to be really popular among tourists to this day. The national park of the Sächsische Schweiz in the eastern part of Germany, right at the border to the Czech Republic, is supposed to be beautiful as well. It's literally the Saxonian Switzerland. And then of course we also have two coasts in Germany with beaches, one at the Baltic Sea and one at the North Sea. Since it's not super hot in Germany, at least not consistently, especially the further north you go, I wouldn't rely on a hot and sunny beach day, but one thing that's definitely cool is seeing the tides work their wonders, and one thing that's really common to do is a Wattwanderung in the part that's called the Wattenmeer in the North Sea, where you can hike through the mud during low tide. In English it's called mudflat hiking apparently. There are also lots of German islands, both in the Baltic Sea and the North Sea, that are beautiful to visit. Especially for people from other continents, European countries are often fascinating from a historical point of view. That's why some of the most popular travel destinations are our castles and palaces that we have throughout Germany. One of the most popular ones is Neuschwanstein, of course, which I already mentioned. It's the fairy tale castle by King Ludwig that the Disney castle is modeled after. But you can also visit Schloss Schwerin in Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, so all the way in the north of Germany, Burg Hohenzollern in Baden-Württemberg, the one in Heidelberg that I mentioned, or the Wartburg in Thuringia, where Martin Luther translated the New Testament into German in the 13th century. The list is endless though, and on top of these insane castles, you can also visit tons of palaces all over Germany. Fun fact, in the German language, we don't differentiate here. Both a palace and a castle are a Schloss, and some castles are a Burg, depending on the time period and the function of it. Besides castles, many people also like to visit the impressive churches and cathedrals in Germany, and you will have even more options there. Some of the most famous churches throughout Germany are probably the Kölner Dom in Cologne, the Frauenkirche in Dresden, the Ulmer Münster in Ulm, the Berliner Dom, the Erfurter Dom, and of course the Frauenkirche in Munich with the two onion domes. But again, the list is long, and I really think you can find a beautiful and impressive church anywhere you go in Germany. And one other historical point that I know many tourists are interested in are memorial sites of concentration camps. There are quite a lot of them throughout Germany, so I'll be sure to provide a link to all of them in the description box. If the first name that comes to mind for you is Auschwitz and you're wondering if you could visit that one actually lies in Poland, about 4 hours away from the German border. But if you're in Munich, you can go to the one in Dachau, which is very close to the city. It's just about 15 minutes north of Munich. If you visit Berlin, you can visit the ones in Sachsenhausen or Ravensbrück. That will be a day trip probably. Or if you're visiting Hamburg, you'll be right by the concentration camp memorial site of Neuengamme. Another Holocaust remembrance destination could be Nuremberg, where there's a great museum about the Nuremberg trials, the Nürnberger Prozesse. And of course, there's history pretty much all throughout Germany, not only in castles, churches, and memorial sites. Every square, statue, and old building can tell a story pretty much. And last but not least, let's talk about some other fun travel destinations in Germany. When people visit Munich, I always tell them to visit the Therme Erding if they have an extra day, for example. It's a huge water park with tons of water slides, both indoor and outdoor, a spa area, cocktail bars in the pools, and in the summer there's even an artificial sand beach and a stage right by the outdoor pool where they sometimes have DJs or show movies. Other great places to visit are the Europapark Rust, for example, one of my favorite amusement parks worldwide, to be honest. It's so much cheaper than the Disneylands of the world, but has amazing rides, a really cool theme to it. The park consists of different European countries, and it has a great location. It's right by the city of Freiburg, which is also a beautiful old city, and it's also right at the border to France, so you can actually take a day trip to Strasbourg. Then I know that many people like to visit the Miniaturwunderland in Hamburg, the miniature wonderland, which has the world's largest model railway and other miniature parts of the world. And then of course you can visit all the different car manufacturers throughout Germany, in case that's something you're interested in. Some of them even let you go inside their factories. You can visit BMW in Munich, Audi a little over an hour north of Munich in Ingolstadt, Mercedes-Benz and Porsche in Stuttgart, or VW, Volkswagen in Wolfsburg. Now, what is the best place to visit in my opinion? I think if it's your first time in Germany, visiting 1 or 2 big cities and the surrounding areas is a good idea, and then combining it with some day trips to scenic places or historical sites. If you like the Alps and want to take a quick trip to Austria, I think Munich is always a great spot. You can also check out my Munich tour videos for that as well. However, you should know that Munich is pretty expensive. If you'd rather see some more northern parts of Germany, maybe even make it to the German coast and the Wattenmeer, I would probably go to Berlin or Hamburg. Hamburg will give you more of that beautiful city feeling, while Berlin will feel a little bigger and more diverse. Now, what's the best time to go? I would probably choose to go in the summer, unless you're trying to go skiing or something. Unfortunately though, you can't really rely on the German weather. It can be awesome, like sunny and in the 80s and 90s, but sometimes it's just cold and rainy for weeks, even in the middle of the summer. Still, your best bet is probably to go between June and September, I would say. July and August are usually the months with the best summer weather, but they're also pretty busy because that's when most states in Germany have their school breaks. If you go in May or September, it can be much cooler, but might also be cheaper and not as crowded. So it really depends on your preferences. And the last question, is there a place in Germany that's totally overrated? First of all, I think anything can feel overrated if you don't prepare your trip well enough and don't make the best of it. Or if the weather is shitty, I think that can ruin a trip too. In general though, I would say that depending on your expectations, Schloss Neuschwanstein can be a little overrated. It's beautiful to look at from the outside, don't get me wrong, but the tour is usually completely overcrowded and overpriced, and you don't even get to see all that much inside. As someone who's been to a lot of castles and palaces, I feel like the indoor experience is better at other places. And this isn't exactly a place, but in case you're really excited to drive on the Autobahn in Germany, you should know that there are in fact speed limits on the Autobahn. It's only some parts where there is no speed limit, but sometimes that only lasts for like a few minutes before it goes back to 120 kilometers per hour, so be aware of that. If any other Germans can think of more things or places that are overrated, or if you would like to add tips down below, please feel free to do so. And the same goes for non-Germans who have visited Germany before. Let's share those insider tips and experiences. Thank you guys so much for watching. There will be 2 more Ask a German videos in the next few days where I answer your questions, but since they're turning out to be a little longer than initially planned, it'll probably be more like every 3 days rather than every 2 days. To get to the whole Ask a German playlist, just click up here. And if you like this video and what I do on my channel in general, please make sure that you're subscribed. Ideally, you even activate the notification bell, and you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And if you want to support me beyond that, just join my Patreon family, buy me a drink on Buy Me a Coffee, or hit the super thanks button here on YouTube. Thank you so much, and I hope I see you next time. Tschüss!